The twin sons of Orlith hung low over the capital when the human arrived, as if even the sky wished to witness the absurdity. Princess Valera leaned back in her crystalline throne, long ears arcing elegantly behind her shoulders, and regarded the lone envoy with open amusement. Beside her, Princess Shalith tilted her own long ears forward in exaggerated curiosity, as though studying a rare insect. "So this," Shalith said, her voice smooth as starlight, "is Earth's finest offering." Daniel Reyes cleared his throat. "Technically, I was third choice. The first two diplomats developed sudden allergies to interstellar travel." A ripple of restrained laughter moved through the court. Valera's lips curved despite herself. The human stood in a simple uniform, no armor, no bioluminescent regalia, no genetic augmentations shimmering beneath his skin, just a heartbeat and a calm gaze. "You appear fragile," Valera observed. Her long ears twitched faintly. "Our gravity alone should have folded you in half." "I do yoga," Daniel replied solemnly. "And I drink milk. It's very rebellious of me." This time the laughter was less restrained. Even the High Chancellor's ears quivered before he stiffened them again. Humans were rumored to have brittle skeletons and short lives. Their genome was catalogued as chaotic, inelegant. Orlith biology, by contrast, was refined through millennia of selective perfection. Shalith circled him slowly. "Tell me, human, do you truly believe your species could rival ours?" "In what category?" Daniel asked. "Longevity." "Probably not. Dessert variety? Absolutely." Valera covered her smile with her hand. "You joke to hide inadequacy." "I joke," Daniel said, "because I've learned that when someone twice my height and infinitely more luminous is evaluating my species, humor improves survival rates." The court murmured again. His pulse remained steady, displayed openly on the hovering diplomatic interface. No fear spike, no cortisol surge, just a stubborn rhythm. Before further ridicule could unfold, the chamber doors parted. King Thervon was carried in upon a levitating dais, his once radiant form dimmed, his long ears resting heavily against silver hair. The air changed. Even Daniel straightened instinctively. "My daughters," the king said, his voice thin yet resonant, "and envoy of Earth." Valera's amusement faded, Shalith's ears lowered. "Our empire declines," Thervon continued. "Not in power, in blood, our fertility wanes. Our genes have become too symmetrical, too pure." A silence deeper than vacuum settled over the hall. Daniel blinked once. "Respectfully, Your Majesty, this sounds above my diplomatic pay grade." A faint smile touched the king's lips. "On the contrary, human, it is precisely within it." The will was projected in shimmering glyphs above the dais. A decree encoded in law and biology. The princesses were to secure heirs through genetic union with the human envoy. Shalith laughed first, sharp and incredulous. "A symbolic gesture, surely." Valera nodded, "An experiment destined to fail." Daniel raised a hand cautiously. "For the record, I was not informed this mission included experimental fatherhood." "It does now," the king replied softly. The court erupted into whispers. The princesses turned toward Daniel, their earlier mockery returning like a shield. "You understand," Valera said coolly, "that our compatibility is statistically negligible." Daniel exhaled. "Story of my life." Shalith studied him, her long ears angling in puzzlement rather than scorn. "You do not protest." "Oh, I absolutely protest," he said. "Internally, very loudly. But if your empire needs help, Earth doesn't walk away." The twin suns flared brighter beyond the chamber's transparent walls. The decree sealed itself with a pulse of ancient authority. Valera met her sister's gaze. Laughter lingered on their lips, but something else threaded through it now, uncertainty. The human stood alone in a court of luminous beings, ordinary and unmodified, yet unbowed. "Very well," Shalith said at last. "Let us demonstrate the limits of human biology." Daniel adjusted his collar. "I was hoping for a tour first." For the first time that day, both princesses laughed without cruelty. And far above them, unseen biosensors in the palace walls began quietly recalibrating for possibilities no one truly believed in. The laboratories of Orlith did not sleep. They recalculated. Daniel stood at the center of a circular platform while strands of light moved across his skin, reading him, translating him, arguing silently about him. Princess Valera watched from one side, arms folded, long ears angled in poised skepticism. Princess Shalith leaned against a console, her ears flicking each time a new data stream flashed into existence. "Your genome," Valera said, studying the projections, is untidy. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever called it, Daniel replied. Back home they say questionable life choices. A faint snort escaped Shalith before she composed herself. The chief geneticist adjusted a lattice of hovering symbols, frowning. Human DNA demonstrates excessive variability, the scientist murmured. It adapts under stress rather than refining away imperfection. Imperfection builds character, Daniel offered, and occasionally supervillains. Valera paced slowly around the platform. Our sequences are optimized, balanced, stable. Stable is good, Daniel agreed. Stable chairs don't collapse. Stable stars also collapse, Shalith countered quietly. That drew a silence. The Empire's crisis hung between them like an unspoken equation. The first integration trial began not with ceremony but with algorithms. Simulated unions ran at accelerated speeds across quantum biocores. Probabilities bloomed and died in microseconds. Failure, statistical collapse. Daniel peered at the nearest display. If it helps, I was terrible at statistics. You are terrible at many things, Valera replied automatically. Multitasking is my weakness. Hours stretched. The princesses had entered the arrangement with cool detachment, treating it as an obligation written by a fading king. Yet as the simulations multiplied, something shifted. The failures were not catastrophic, they were interesting. Human sequences refused to align neatly, but neither did they disintegrate. They flexed. They reconfigured. They searched. The chief geneticist's long ears trembled. Rerun sequence cluster 9. A new projection flared. Human strands intertwined with Oralith code, not by mirroring symmetry, but by compensating for it. Where Oralith DNA was rigid, human DNA bent. Where it was silent, human code amplified. Valera stepped closer. That configuration was statistically impossible. So was me being here, Daniel muttered. Shalith's eyes narrowed as the simulation stabilized rather than collapsing. Cellular harmony replaced algorithmic tension. The projected embryo form held its structure. Run it again, she ordered. They did. It held again. Valera's ears lowered slowly, no longer in mockery but in concentration. This is a computational anomaly. It's called being adaptable, Daniel said softly. We survive by being a little messy. The chamber doors sealed automatically as live trials commenced. Oralith biotechnology merged precision with organic intuition, guiding processes too complex for language. The princesses approached the union not as guests now, but as participants in something vast and uncertain. Days passed under constant monitoring. Daniel endured scans, nutrient infusions, and more medical briefings than any diplomat deserved. If this works, he told Shalith during one late diagnostic, I'm requesting a very long vacation. To where, she asked, somewhere without glowing equipment. She surprised herself by laughing. Then the bioscanners changed tone. A harmonic resonance filled the chamber, low and sustained. Valera's head snapped toward the central display. The chief geneticist went pale. Princess Valera, the scientist whispered, conception markers are present. Silence struck like impact. Confirm, Valera demanded. Confirmed. Before comprehension settled, another alert chimed. Shalith's console illuminated. Princess Shalith, you as well. Daniel blinked. I'm sorry as well. Both projections rotated above them, two distinct embryonic signatures, stable, vibrant, impossibly strong. Valera stared at the data as though it might dissolve under scrutiny. This defies centuries of decline. Shalith let out a breath that became a laugh, then another. We mocked him. Daniel raised a cautious hand. In fairness, I mocked me too. The chief geneticist sank into a seat. The hybrid sequences are broadcasting restorative patterns. Even peripheral Oralith cells are responding. Across the Empire, subtle physiological shifts began rippling through the population as resonance therapies activated. Dormant fertility markers flickered awake. Valera turned slowly toward Daniel. The amusement she once wore like armor was gone. In its place was something steadier. Respect edged with astonishment. You were never ordinary, she said quietly. Oh, I am extremely ordinary, Daniel replied. I just come from a species that refuses to quit. Shalith stepped beside her sister, long ears lifting not in ridicule but in dawning hope. Beyond the laboratory walls, the twin suns brightened slightly, as if adjusting to a future none of them had calculated. The Empire did not erupt into celebration. It argued. In the high conclave, ancient houses projected legal codes into the air, each clause sharpened like a blade. Hybrid heirs dilute imperial purity, one elder declared, long ears rigid with indignation. We were perfected. We were perfected into extinction, Shalith replied evenly. Across the chamber, medical data streamed in relentless waves. Fertility markers were rising throughout Orlith space. Peripheral colonies reported unexpected conceptions after resonance therapies derived from the embryo's genomic patterns. The science refused to bow to tradition. Daniel sat slightly behind the princesses, wishing the chair were less ceremonial and more comfortable. For the record, he murmured to Valera, humans also have a long history of arguing while evidence waves politely in the corner. Valera's ears twitched with restrained amusement. Months ago, she would have dismissed him. Now she leaned subtly toward him, as if drawing steadiness from his presence. The High Chancellor lifted a hand. The data indicates systemic rejuvenation. The hybrid sequences are stabilizing our genome. Through chaos, an elder spat. Through adaptation, Daniel said quietly. The chamber fell still. He had not meant to speak aloud. Valera rose. We mocked this human for being biologically inelegant. Yet his so-called inelegance restored what our symmetry suffocated. Shalith stepped forward. Father warned us, perfection is stagnation. We confused superiority with survival. The debate did not vanish, but it softened. Numbers continued to accumulate. Healthy growth, stable development, no degradation of Orlith traits, only expansion. The unborn heirs were not erasing the empire, they were widening it. Outside the conclave, citizens gathered beneath the twin suns, watching public updates shimmer across the sky. Jokes spread faster than fear. Apparently humans reproduce by accident, one citizen quipped. Daniel overheard through a relay and sighed. I'd like it officially noted this was very deliberate. Valera smiled openly now, no shield in it. You carry our future and still complain about public relations. I'm human, he said. Complaining is cultural heritage. Weeks later, the final medical council convened. The chief geneticist's long ears stood high with restrained excitement. Both pregnancies are progressing beyond optimal projections. Hybrid neural matrices indicate enhanced cognitive flexibility. Lifespan forecasts exceed prior imperial averages. An elder who once opposed the union inclined his head. Then the heirs are legitimate. The word settled like a seal. In a quieter chamber afterward, Shalith regarded Daniel thoughtfully. When you arrived, I saw a fragile envoy from a minor world. And now, I see a partner. Valera added, and the father of our dynasty. Daniel swallowed. That sounds significantly more permanent than my original job description. Shalith laughed, warm and unguarded. You have changed us, Daniel Reyes. He shook his head. You changed yourselves? I just showed up with messy DNA. But he knew he had changed, too. He no longer stood as a solitary representative of Earth trying to prove worth. He stood within something larger, responsible not only for diplomacy, but for life. The quiet steadiness he once used as defense had become conviction. The day the Empire formally recognized the heirs, the twin suns aligned in rare orbital symmetry. Valera and Shalith stood before their people, long ears lifted high, no trace of former mockery remaining. Daniel stood beside them, not behind. Orlith endures, Valera declared. Not through purity, Shalith continued, but through courage to evolve. The crowd answered not with reluctant murmurs, but with unified resonance. Daniel leaned toward them. So, does this mean I finally get that tour? Shalith arched a brow. Of the Empire. Of my new home. Valera took his hand without hesitation. Yes, she said, our home. Above them, the suns burned brighter, not in defiance of decline, but in acknowledgement of renewal. The laughter that once belittled Earth now rang freely across Orlith skies, threaded with gratitude. And in the quiet rhythm of two growing heartbeats, an empire learned that survival was not about being flawless. It was about being willing to change.